Hi, I'm Ray, and today I'm going to demonstrate on how to paint a tree. Well, actually the foliage of a tree. I'm going to use this as a reference. This is a Mexican elder, which I took a picture from around the neighborhood. And this is a reference that I'm going to use today. I'm going to demonstrate on how to do the leaves. And before we start, let me put it over here, because it's going to be my reference. Before we start, let me tell you what I used. I used the number 12, 10, and 8 round brush. I'm using 3 types of green: sap green, light hooker green, dark hooker green, and of course I'm going to use a yellow. This is my Indian yellow that I'm going to use today. That's what I'm going to use to do the foliage. Always have 2 containers of clean water. One to clean your brush and one to use the water to mix your paints. If you start using the same container for everything, you're going to get a muddy water. You don't want that. And always have a little piece of a paper or a cloth to dab your brushes on. With that, let's get started. I'm going to use the water in the right container to start mixing my paints. Remember, use one container to rinse off your paints, the other container with clean water to mix your paints good. I'm going to start out with sap green. I'm going to use my number 12 brush, and very loosely, and I say loosely, is I'm going to do the basic shape. Don't be afraid if you go into the tree trunks, which I pre-painted to save some time. Now as you go along, make sure that you get the right shape. Remember, a tree is not a lollipop or popsicle. That mistake is done with real young kids when they start doing trees. But for us, remember, every tree is shaped differently. Now when you go ahead and make sure, or you're okay with the shape, using your sap green, rinse your brush. I go down to the number 10 brush, and I go into my light sap green. Now here, don't go over the whole thing as we did. Just go partially where you think that you need to have the darks and the lights. Sometimes you might need just to get clean water and sort of blend it in so you won't have no harsh edges. Don't be afraid. I normally use 140-pound cold press paper, stretch. But if you use a block, some people say that you don't have to stretch it. Now, go over it as many times as you need to make sure that some places is darker than others. If I don't like it, dab it, go back, Go ahead and use your dark hooker green. To add some darkness. Don't be afraid. Like I said, I'm going to show you a trick in a little while. Now, of course, I'm doing it real fast. You're going to need to let some of the layers dry before you can go ahead and apply more. But because we're short of time, I'm just going to have to do it over again. Now, my yellow comes in handy when I want to highlight a couple of places. Remember, not every place in the tree is the same shade. Don't be afraid to experiment. Like I tell my grandson, it is your painting. And one day he reminded me, when I told him about a thing he was doing, he says, "Grandpa, remember, it's my painting." I said, "Yes, son, I do. I do remember what I told you." Now, let me show you a little trick that I have. I use a sponge. Regular sponge. Tap it at the edges. But remember, always move the sponge around, because if not, you're going to get the same pattern. Move the sponge around. Don't let it stay in the same location. But like I said, you're going to get that same pattern and it's not going to be looking good. You might want from time to time, just get up, look back, and see how it's looking. Where the yellow's at, don't dab too much in there, because you want that area to be highlighted. You want that area to stay like that. You don't want it to be taken in with all the other. Switch around your brushes. Go back with your sponge. Especially up on the top here. Move your sponge around. Give a little character. And the bottom of the tree is going to be a little bit darker, because the sun's not going to be as bright down there. It's not going to be hidden there. Like I said, it's not going to be exactly as my other one. My other one took hours to construct. This is basically the way I do one. Again, the other one took many hours to do. Before I go, let me show you a little trick. On my tree trunk, I use raw sienna. I do the raw sienna on this particular tree, and then when it's a little bit wet, I get Van Dyke brown, start going into it with a clean brush, a little bit of water, start adding in your highlights or your texture, as you want to call it. Again, remember, normally I will let all this dry before I start another stage, but just to give you an idea of how. Another way that I do it is I get a thick color of brown, lay it in, come in with a little bit of clean water, dab a little bit, a little bit more clean water, and you have yourself a nice little shaded area. You mostly want to do that. If it was dry, I will show you how up here. I'm going to be a little bit of brave right now and see if it takes. You let it dry and you go up here in the nice little shade areas and you start your brown. You start coming in. You'll get the idea. Well, this is just a rough drawing that or painting that I did just to demonstrate on the colors that I use and the technique that I use. Remember, let it dry in between some of the layers, but because time is limited, I just want for you to know the steps that I take. If you enjoy this, watch for more of my episodes on painting with watercolors. This is Ray saying goodbye.